My name is Mike. I'm 41 and I'm working in a trading company. I'm not exactly climbing the corporate ladder, but I work hard every day and enjoy a fulfilling life. The reason I'm not moving up might be because I don't do overtime. Since I leave at my clock out time, without doing more work than necessary, it creates a gap between me and my peers. Still, I'm not unhappy with my life, and I find joy in being able to work at my own pace. Of course, my peers and other employees understand me. So nobody says anything when I head home while everyone else is doing overtime. They've accepted someone like me. However, there were people who didn't think well of me. One of them was Anne, the executive. She was what you'd call an elite, having been appointed as a director at a young age. Not only that, but she was known for her strictness towards her subordinates. I had caught the eye of Anne on my way out. "Hey, Mike, are you leaving already?" Yes. It's already time to clock out. Your colleagues are still here working, you know. And you don't feel bad about leaving before them. And gave me a stern look. Even so, I've finished all the work I was supposed to do. Still, it's only natural to help reduce the workload of your teammates. I scratched my head. They've taken on a lot of work themselves. I'm just doing what I can handle. They choose to work overtime, so I don't feel obliged to join them in that. With that, I left the company. This kind of thing happens all the time. For some reason, and always seems to be trying to get me to stay late. I didn't understand why, but somehow I managed to dodge and weave through the days. Then, one day, I was called into a separate room by the department head. As soon as he saw me, he showed me a piece of paper. "What's this?" "This is the purchase order you sent to our client the other day," the department head explained with a frustrated expression. Indeed, it was the one I had sent recently. "Huh? What's this? Did you notice?" "Yes. The quantity ordered is wrong. There's an extra digit." "Right, so who made the mistake?" The department head glared at me. "No, it wasn't me. I double-checked the numbers before sending it." "Then what's this?" The department head slammed the desk and shouted. "This is the transaction you were handling with our client. With a mistake like this, it's easy to tell who made it. Indeed, I would be the prime suspect. But I'm telling you, I didn't do this," I argued back to the department head. The department head then held his head in his hands. "Try to put yourself in my shoes, dealing with a troublemaker like you." "Troublemaker? Me?" "Yes, you. I have to manage someone who leaves as soon as possible without doing any overtime, a real freeloader. Do you understand the stress that causes me? It's true, I don't do overtime. But in exchange, I make sure to complete my tasks properly. And my sales performance. I'm meeting my quotas, aren't I?" "Then what's this?" "The client says it's too late to make changes now. If this goes on, our company will suffer a significant loss. Can you compensate for that loss?" The department head sighed deeply, as if exasperated. "Please stop assuming I made the mistake. We need to investigate what caused this. There's a chance something like this could happen again." While I was talking to the department head, the door opened, and Anne walked in. She looked at me with a smirk. "What's going on?" "We can hear your voices all the way outside, and the employees are confused." "Well, actually." Then the department head started to explain. After listening to the explanation, and turned to look at me. "Mistakes happen to everyone. However, not admitting or apologizing isn't very professional, is it? Of course, if the mistake was on my part, I would admit and apologize. But I'm confident I didn't make this mistake. That's why I'm asking for an investigation first." Anne shrugged in exasperation. "As I've said multiple times, this was a job only you were involved in. Who else do you suggest made the mistake?" "I don't know. But I can prove I didn't do it." As I said that, Anne's eyebrows twitched. "Oh. And how's that?" "I always save backups of the purchase orders and contracts when I send them out. If you look at those, you can see that what I wrote had no mistakes." As I explained that, the department head anxiously checked Anne's reaction. Seeing that look, I realized this situation was orchestrated. And the mastermind was almost certainly Anne. Such things can be fabricated afterward. It doesn't prove anything. Don't worry. The date and time when the backups were made are also recorded. It proves they weren't made afterward. Anne bit her lip in frustration. You're always so defiant against us, aren't you? Defiant. I'm just asserting my innocence. Regarding overtime too, if you're not motivated, it might be better for you to leave. I shake my head. How can you say I'm not motivated? I work up to the designated time every day, don't I? Anyone can do that. Anne raises her voice. It's only considered work if you do more than that. Especially for someone with a low education like you. And says this with a smirk. Education again. And has brought up my educational background several times in the past. It seems my education is one of the reasons and has targeted me. Education shouldn't matter. I do my job well. Anyway, can I first prove that I didn't make the mistake? When I asked the department head, he looked troubled and looked down. He must just be following Anne's orders. Sure, do as you like, but remember this. Our company doesn't need someone with your low education and incompetence. We can fire someone like that anytime. Anne had a deep furrow between her eyebrows. I had hoped that at least your work attitude would improve after being cautioned, but it seems no improvement was observed. Unfortunately, I think you will be terminated. Is that so? Yes, we can't keep employing someone who is not useful forever. I nod in agreement. I agree. The incompetent should be fired, right? Well, you understand, don't you? Having received my termination notice, I didn't argue back and left the separate room. The next day, I was sitting in the conference room. Then, Anne came in. She looked at me and her eyes widened. What are you doing here? What do you mean? I'm sitting in the conference room. I heard there was an important meeting. Yes, that's right. So, someone at your level should leave. What do you mean? I asked Anne, who seemed more panicked than angry. This is a shareholders' meeting. Someone like you shouldn't have the right to attend. Anne was right, it was a shareholders' meeting. However, there's a reason I'm here. I'm sorry, but I'm here because I know it's a shareholders' meeting. Have you lost your mind? Get out of here now. I am a shareholder of this company. That's why I have the right to participate. I spoke honestly. Yet, Anne refused to acknowledge me. What kind of lie are you telling? There's no way you could hold shares in our company. Can't you just stop? At that moment, the CEO spoke with a commanding voice. Anne froze instantly. It's time for the shareholders' meeting. Take your seat. Boo, but, CEO, he is. The CEO gave Anne a sharp look. He is a shareholder of our company. There's no mistake about that. Is that true? He's a shareholder. Of course. And he's a major shareholder who owns 50% of our company's stock. Hearing the CEO's explanation, Anne fell silent. It was more like she couldn't grasp the situation rather than choosing silence. Mr. CEO, what kind of joke is this? 50% of our company's shares would be worth 30 billion yen. There's no way such a junior employee could possess that kind of money. And let out a dry laugh. Then, the CEO glanced at me. Understanding it as a cue to explain, I nodded. Everything the CEO said is true. There's no way. Someone with your educational background couldn't possibly achieve that. Education doesn't matter. I sighed. You often got mad at me for leaving on time, right? There was a good reason for that. A reason? Yes. I've been working on a side business. That's why I haven't been staying for overtime. As I explained, Anne's eyes widened. You were doing a side job. Just so you know, our company doesn't prohibit side jobs. There shouldn't be any problem. Well, I didn't say there was a problem. My side job is programming. It started as a hobby, but it turned out to be quite profitable. Then, I thought of creating an app at one point. I then took out my smartphone to show the screen. When I released this app for learning Chinese, its users skyrocketed. That's how I made a substantial amount of revenue. No way. My friend uses that app too. Shall I continue? Then, the CEO took over the conversation. When he was achieving great success, our company was in a very tight spot. You know that, don't you? Yes, but we managed to recover, didn't we? The recovery was thanks to Mike here. What? He knew about the financial crisis and offered to help with funding. Hearing the CEO's words, and looked at me with a shocked expression. Even then, I felt bad, so I decided to have him buy 50% of the shares. Yes, so I accepted the president's proposal. I owe a lot to this company. Oh. Yes. Due to family circumstances, I couldn't attend college and was hired by this company straight after high school. Normally, without a college degree, you wouldn't get into such a good company. I wasn't in charge of hiring. But you had good scores on your exam, and it seems your high school grades were also excellent, so it was natural to hire you. The president said with a smile. As a result, the management has recovered, and the value of the stock has significantly increased. In the end, I have made a profit, so I truly feel sorry. No, it's because of you that our company is where it is today. That profit is a rightful reward. Is that so? I reluctantly nodded. At that, the smile on the president's face tightened. Now, with the questions now resolved, shall we start the shareholder meeting? As the president gave the command, and hurriedly took a seat nearby. Today's agenda for the shareholder meeting is about the dismissal of an executive. Mike, please start your presentation. Yes, I propose the dismissal of Executive Vice President and at this shareholder meeting. As I declared that, Anne stood up. What are you saying all of a sudden? There's no way I'd let you do something so arbitrary. Anne objected, but I remained calm. Don't you know? A shareholder owning more than 50% of the stock can dismiss an executive on their own. What? Is that true? In response to Anne, the president nodded. Yes, that's correct. He can appoint or dismiss executives at his discretion. Owning 50% means having that much power. So, you really intend to dismiss me? Yes, of course. I answered clearly. What have I done? I've worked my heart out for this company. That may be true, but your tyranny has been noticeable, so we have decided to dismiss you. As I conveyed this, and glared at me with a stern look. This dismissal is unjust. It's outrageous to be dismissed on someone's personal whim. If you really go through with this, I will sue you and claim damages. Anne's eyes were bloodshot as she intimidated those around her. However, I was not fazed. Feel free to do so. But I'm not dismissing you out of whim. There are valid reasons for this decision. Reasons? What reasons could there possibly be? First off, your attitude towards me. You've always been harsh towards me, haven't you? That was because you weren't working properly. I was keeping an eye out for the sake of the company. Are you dismissing me out of spite for that? No, it was because you looked down on me for my lower education. You even said I should work harder because of my low education. As I said this, the president covered his face with his hand. I can't believe you were saying such things. But, I never mentioned anything about education. It was all about your poor work attitude. I've never heard complaints about Mike's work attitude. His performance isn't bad either. So, why were you forcing him to work overtime? I merely pointed out that it was odd for him to attempt to leave unabashedly, while his colleagues in the same department were working overtime. I explained that I had completed my tasks. Mike's argument isn't wrong at all. Besides, our company has stated that we should avoid overtime as much as possible. Mike's way of working should indeed be a model for our company. That may be true, but... And the last straw was yesterday's incident. As I began to speak, Anne's face stiffened. I was reprimanded by the manager for making a mistake in the order quantity during a transaction with a client. That's because the mistake is undeniable. The numbers on the order were indeed wrong, and he was the one who wrote it. That happened. The numbers on the order were indeed wrong, but it wasn't me who did it. What do you mean? Someone had accessed my computer and altered the data. This was discovered by looking at the computer's login history. Hearing my explanation, the president was surprised. Is that true? Yes, only someone in an executive position or higher could do such a thing. It must have been Anne. And, breaking into a cold sweat, denied it as I spoke. I haven't done such a thing. By looking at the login records, it's easy to see who unauthorizedly accessed it. Then, is it okay for the company to investigate this matter? Pressed by the president, Anne was at a loss for words. It was as if she was admitting her guilt. Probably, Anne's intention was to discredit me by making it seem like a mistake on my part, aiming to get me fired or tarnish my reputation. However, this has caused our company significant losses. Not just financially, but it has also damaged our long-standing relationship with a client. If they were to terminate our contract, the loss would be immeasurable. As I explained, Anne's face grew increasingly pale. Such actions must not be tolerated. That's why I am proposing to dismiss Ann from the board of directors. This is not an unfair dismissal at all. No, but, even so, dismissal is too harsh. I admit I was at fault this time. I will never do something like this again. So please forgive me. Ann earnestly bowed her head. Seeing this, the atmosphere among the president and other shareholders shifted, wondering if dismissal was too extreme. From now on, I want to work hard to compensate for the losses incurred by this incident. Could you please decide on my dismissal after observing my efforts? Reluctantly, the president nodded to Ann's plea. Well, indeed, what was done was wrong. However, dismissing a director for a single mistake might be too harsh. The president glanced at me. What do you think? Could we settle this amicably with just a verbal warning this time? President. Thank you. I took a deep breath. Indeed, this incident was something that happened unexpectedly. Thank you, Mike. I will change my ways and do my best from now on. And expressed her remorse with a bright voice. But, you see, there's another reason why I think she should be dismissed. What? Is that so? The president was surprised at my words. I then displayed a certain photo for the president and others to see. Do you recognize this? That is. The photo showed Ann extravagantly enjoying herself at a host club. Seeing the photo, Ann's face turned red with anger. What is this? This is an invasion of privacy. Moreover, this was outside of my working hours. Why would you do something like this? The president seemed displeased as well. Ann is right. What she does outside of her working hours is none of our business and we have no right to interfere. Of course, I understand. This was outside working hours, so whatever is done is one's own freedom. The issue isn't the action. It's the payment that's problematic. Payment. What do you mean? And how did you pay for all of this? I, of course, paid with my own money. Is that so? Then what is this? I then showed them a piece of paper. It was a copy of a receipt. It was labeled as entertainment expenses, but the amount was beyond any reasonable limit. You've been charging all your drinks at this bar to the company's expenses, haven't you? This is despite the fact it was outside of working hours and completely unrelated to work. The president picked up the receipt. Could this really be true? That's all lies. I never submitted such a receipt, and there's no way such a large amount would be approved. Ann vehemently objected. Indeed, that's true. Any accountant would be suspicious of a receipt for such an amount. Yes, that's correct. Actually, I heard about this from someone in accounting. What? A colleague who joined this company in the same year as me, who now works in the accounting department, told me this story. What did he say? He said that Ann has been threatening her superiors to charge personal expenses to the company. I explained, and the president glared at Ann. That's not true. It's all a conspiracy. They're lying to discredit me. By the way, I never told him that I am a major shareholder. He was just venting to me. After that, I conducted my own investigation and obtained this evidence. That's a lie. All of it is lies. The president then stepped forward. So, shall we proceed with a full-scale investigation? What? I can't just take Mike's word for everything. However, it's also a fact that Ann is very likely guilty. Is it all right for us to conduct a company-wide investigation into this matter? I nodded in agreement with the president's proposal. That sounds good. I'm sure the heads of the accounting department will cooperate if the president himself leads the investigation. According to my colleague, they seem to be doing it reluctantly under threat. As I said this, Ann was sweating profusely. What do you say, Ann? Can't you just trust me and decide not to investigate? The president shook his head sadly. That's not possible. And during the investigation, you will be on house arrest. Leave the company immediately. We will inform you of your final disposition at a later date. Hearing this, Ann slumped her shoulders and left the conference room. Following the investigation, it was proven that Ann had tampered with contracts and embezzled funds. She was dismissed from her director position and fired from the company. The embezzled amount was demanded from her as damages by the company. And, in an effort to repay the money, looked for re-employment but ended up not finding any, resulting in her taking on multiple part-time jobs. Now, she is barely making ends meet by working these jobs. On the other hand, I was chosen to replace Anne as a director and am working as an executive. And now, I am actively working to create a system that leverages my expertise in programming within the current company.